5 Live Formula One.
Good evening and welcome to Abu Dhabi. We're gearing up for the final qualifying session of the year at the Yas Marina circuit. The sun has almost set on the horizon, creating an orange and purple haze in the sky as the lights that align this 5.2 kilometre circuit switch on and flood this track with light, which will soon be filled by 20 Formula One cars, setting the fastest laps they can as we begin to set the grid for Sunday's Grand Prix. Guiding you through every step of the way is myself, Harry Benjamin. Alongside me in the commentary box is former Renault Formula One driver Jolyon Palmer, and keeping an eye on all the action from the pits to the paddock is Jenny Gow.
Hello, Harry, and it's such an interesting contrast. You stand in the paddock and there's loads of people there all trying to get a selfie or an autograph, the drivers and the personalities that are here, and it's party fever in the marina. And then you walk through the pit lane and through the pit walk and into the pit lane, and you find this calm tension. And I think a lot of teams, for different reasons up and down the paddock, are nervous, anxious. They feel tense ahead of this final qualifying session. This is Lewis Hamilton's last qualifying session in a Mercedes. Carlos Sainz leaves Ferrari at the end of this weekend. There's a lot of people with a point to prove, and even though nothing is to be decided for the Drivers' Championship, we know how much this means to McLaren, and they are desperate just to have a normal session. They want everything to be as normal as possible, so that's what we'll be watching out for. Can they keep it together when it really counts? Yeah, absolutely. So much still to watch out for under the lights in Abu Dhabi. It's also Zhou Guanyu, Valtteri Bottas and Kevin Magnussen's final qualifying sessions, along with the Williams of Franco Colapinto. Their futures at the moment don't lie on the Formula One grid next year. And to come to that McLaren versus Ferrari fight, that is the constructors' battle that still needs to be settled. 21 points separate McLaren and Ferrari. It's not impossible for Ferrari, but so far from what we've seen throughout the practice sessions, momentum does appear to be Jolyon Palmer with the duo of Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris. A lot of momentum with them. They've been very fast through practice. They've been 1-2 in practice earlier on today as well. And as the temperatures cool and the nighttime rubber will be laid down, I would still expect McLaren to be the team to beat. And on top of that, the big news has been Charles Leclerc's 10-place grid penalty that he has to take for the race tomorrow. So it is a really open goal, this, for McLaren, but you never know at the end of a season, as so many things have gone wrong for them procedurally, or a bit of bad luck here or there in the season so far, or it's a red flag, yellow flags penalty, or bits and bobs. They've still got to deliver on it. Absolutely. Could, though, get their first constructors' title come the end of the checkered flag on Sunday since 1998. Ferrari, they haven't won it since 2008. Either way, it would be a magnificent story and would be the cherry on the cake of what has been a fantastic 2024 season. Fair bit of wind in the air as well. The flags that sit on the top of the pit buildings and those in the grandstand fluttering away. Air temperature 25.9 degrees, track temperature 30.4 degrees. Jody, you mentioned things like yellow flags and grip to watch out for. Track limits is also another thing here that can catch a few out. You'll get your lap time deleted. Yeah, there's a few corners where you can go over track limits, keep your foot in and still keep a lap time. Turn 1 is one of those, and the final corner, turn 16, is another one. So drivers have got to make sure they don't abuse the track limits. But with the wind picking up, it is quite exposed, particularly turn 1. You can get a gusting wind on the entry there, have a snap of oversteer or a bit of understeer, and it just drops you wide, and suddenly your lap's gone before it's even begun. Certainly is, and Lando Norris just getting buckled into his McLaren. The straps go over his shoulders as he adjusts himself and gets comfortable. So too for the RB driver of Yuki Tsunoda, and we talk about the battle for first and second. There is a battle as well going on for sixth in the constructors. Really the winner of the midfield, that's currently occupied by Alpine, who are 5 points ahead of the Haas Formula One team right now. Then come RB, a further 8 points adrift. That fight
could be crucial. And actually, Jolien, from what we saw certainly in FP3 earlier, slightly different conditions, but the two Haas cars of Kevin Magnussen and Nico Hulkenberg looking quick out there.
Looking very good all the way through practice so far. 7th in the constructors, need to leapfrog Alpine. And it's worth mentioning Alpine have a new driver. We've got a debutant in the field. Jack Doohan has replaced Esteban Ocon for good with that team. Ocon is off to Haas. He'll get the first taste of that car next week in the test. But he has made the way for the Aussie. Jack Doohan, a Formula 2 race winner, in for next year, and he's going to be alongside Gasly in this session, and he would love to make it through at least into Q2 on debut with the team.
Yeah, Alpine have picked up huge points over the last couple of races, with Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly getting that double podium in Sao Paulo, and Pierre Gasly picking up 5th place last time at the Qatar Grand Prix. But they've decided to sub out Esteban Ocon early before he departs the team. He'll move to Haas next year. Jack Doohan, the 21-year-old from the Gold Coast, and motorsport very much running in the blood for that family. His father, Mick Doohan, a 5-time motorbike champion. And as Jolien said, Jack Doohan, a winner in Formula 2 last year, finished 3rd overall in the championship standings. Gets the call up, and the bar is high now for rookies, as we've seen throughout the year. Q1 is already underway, by the way. 16 minutes and 43 seconds remain. We'll eliminate the 5 slowest drivers come the end of the session, and straight away we've got the Aston Martin of Lance Stroll heading out under the lights as the floodlights bounce off the green Aston Martin as it heads through the right-hander of turn 3 and sets about its opening lap before gearing up for a first fly. Expecting to see the soft tyre predominantly in this session, and his teammate Fernando Alonso follows him out.
Sign of the times really for Aston Martin, who are now the first cars onto the circuit, the other 18 waiting patiently. They are under the pressure just to make it into Q2. Aston Martin, the fall from grace that they've had over the course of 24 months has been staggering. From being regular podium contenders, almost sniffing victory at the start of 2023, started okay this year, and now they are the slowest car on paper. Even Sauber have upgraded their car and are hoping to be making it into Q2. Aston Martin still can, but they're giving their drivers the best chance of making it through. Hard tyres on board Fernando Alonso's car, though, as we hear him hitting the brakes down towards turn 6. So maybe just bedding them in, because this is not going to be a qualifying attempt, unlike Stroll, who's out on the softs.
Yeah, well, for more tyre info, let's head to our tyre expert, Jenny Gow.
Expert, that's a new one on me. I'll try as hard as I can. Yeah, we're expecting the race tomorrow to be a one-stopper, and they are looking to use those hards and mediums tomorrow. So quite what they're doing at Aston Martin, maybe scrubbing a set of hards, I don't know, but well, wait and see as they go down this start-finish straight. I have to say, it's a strong tailwind now. The wind has really picked up as we've gone through the evening, and it's hard to stand there without your hair flying around. There's lots of flags out there along the start-finish straight, and the one I can see says Lewis 44 Hamilton, and it's Trevor and Sally from Bromsgrove, UK. That's a nice shout out for them. Hello to them. And it's worth pointing out, as we lose the bottom of that is the Aston Martin of Alonso coming back in on those hards, so it looks like he was scrubbing those hard tyres. But yeah, we're saying that Williams, each of the drivers have a 5-place grid penalty for exceeding their gearbox allowance. So what we'll see them actually go out there and achieve and do in this session, well, we'll have to wait and see. But I wouldn't expect the world from them, especially for Colapinto, who's had a lot of trouble over the last few weekends and wants to keep it clean out there.
Yeah, it's been a tough run for the two Williams drivers in the last few races. A lot of crash damage building up for both Williams cars as they try and limp towards the end of the season. Carlos Sainz will join them next year, replacing Colapinto, who in turn was substituted in halfway through the season for Logan Sargent.
It's an ugly, ugly first lap for Lance Stroll. Big snap of oversteer out of turn 7, the chicane that punctuates the 2 long straights. Then it's a big front right lock-up as he came into turn 12 in front of the hotel. Now he sweeps into the final corner. The track grip is low. It's going to get better throughout the hour, and Stroll gets a 1 minute 24.3 on the board. It will be easily beaten soon.
Best qualifying here, Stroll of 8th place back in 2020, raced to 8th in 2022, but hasn't scored any points in 9 races this year, going on a bit of in the last 9 races this year, going on a bit of a barren run for the Canadian racer. Meanwhile, his teammate Fernando Alonso did manage to get some points out of the Qatar Grand Prix, and Alonso, who wasn't particularly happy last weekend, wasn't that happy at the start of this weekend, complaining about the car, the straight line speed, being sent out in traffic on an out lap. Tried to be a bit perkier during FP3 on the radio, but he's now scrubbed a set of hard tyres and made his way back to the pits, as we now get a bit of a traffic jam building up in the pit lane. Yeah,
and Alonso will join this flurry of cars crawling out of the pit lane. We've got some of the big guns out there. We've got the Mercedes actually doing the same run plan as Alonso, so they've also scrubbed a set of hards. They're back in the pits. The Ferraris are on track. Sergio Perez is going to be the first of the top teams to get a time on the board. He's starting a flying lap now. You've got Max Verstappen on an out lap, and the McLarens are both trundling out of the pits to join the fray.
Perez indeed out there making his way through turn 1 now. Could this be his last qualifying as a Red Bull driver? Mounting speculation over the future of his seats. Right now, though, he'll be hoping to get through Q1. He's had 6 Q1 eliminations so far this season. He's missed Q3 9 times. Fastest of anybody in the first sector, but only comparing it to the 1 lap time so far of Lance Stroll. Perez out there on the soft, and this is the sound of him heading down that over 1 kilometre straight into the braking zone of turn 6.
Brakes at 100 metres and shuffles down 6 gears. Second up to third. It's a short shift as he gets on the throttle coming out of turn 7. Now builds up the speed up towards 200 miles per hour as he heads down towards turn 9. It is 203 miles per hour as he hits the brakes for turn 9. It's a quick left-hander now, immediately squeezing on the throttle and getting back on it. Sergio Perez is quicker than Stroll through the first couple of sectors, and it might be his last Red Bull qualifying session. It might be his last Formula 1 qualifying session. We await further news from the Red Bull management at the end of this one. So it's an important one for Sergio Perez to get all the way through the full hour of this one.
Big meeting on Monday back at Red Bull HQ to decide that future. But right now, round the final corner for Perez, his first lap time on the board. He's 8 tenths clear of Stroll to 1:23.559. But already his teammate Max Verstappen is quicker in the first sector.
Yeah, not too shabby an opening lap there for Perez. Put Stroll well in the shade. They are the two that have a lap on the board. This is Verstappen pummeling the brakes. So pretty much the same point as his teammate did just 90 seconds ago. Through the left, through the right, getting on the gas once again, finding a bit of rear grip on the new soft tyres. Verstappen is the fastest in the first sector. Colapinto jumps up to second. Perez actually lost his lap with lap time deleted at turn 1. I thought it was marginal. I thought he might have been okay with it, but just over track limits. So that's the first man in this session as Verstappen goes quicker in sector 2.
Sparks flying from the underside of that Red Bull as he brakes for the tight right-hander of turn 12. You sling it then through the left-handers of 13 and 14 underneath the bridge that links the hotel, and then it's the final sweepers, the double right-hand corners that see off a lap of this Yas Marina circuit, and he doesn't quite get the bite he needs coming into the final corner. Loses a bit of time. Still goes fastest of anybody though by half a second. A 1:23.5 on the board for Max Verstappen.
Yeah, and a little bit of traffic at the final corner. I don't think it's penalty-worthy traffic, but he might have caught a bit of dirty air, had a snap of oversteer, and he may well have gone over track limits as well, Verstappen, who sits currently on the top spot, actually in the same time as Perez had. But Perez did lose it with track limits. Sainz now comes through and just drops it by 300ths up to P1.
Another man who is embarking on his final qualifying with his current team, Carlos Sainz, hoping to get the best out of his Ferrari so far in his career around this track. He's got a best qualifying of 4th place back in 2022. Meanwhile, though, it is Sainz who has that fastest lap time. Less than half a tenth of a second separates himself from Max Verstappen. Then it's Leclerc, Tsunoda and Bottas, the top 5. We're still waiting on lap times though from the 2 McLarens. Their opening gambits, they've looked quick from the get-go so far this weekend. They could clinch the constructors title as well come the checkered flag on Sunday. Lando Norris will reach the line first, and his opening lap is only enough for 4th fastest. His teammate Piastri is just behind him coming round the final corner now. Piastri's quickest of anybody in the first sector, again only quick enough for 4th fastest,
which leaves the top 3: Sainz, Verstappen, Kevin Magnussen. We said Haas have got a bit of pace. They're showing it still in qualifying, halfway through Q1, and Magnussen is in the top 3.
Magnussen managed to get his 6th points finish of the season last weekend, hoping to end his Haas tenure on a high. The man, he has the record actually for the longest tie with the same team, but he will be departing that Haas team for a sports car future next year. Currently looking quick though in 3rd, teammate Hülkenberg down in 7th. Now, we've seen the Mercedes cars out on track already. They were scrubbing a set of hard tyres on their first lap. They came in, now they're back out there, put the quickest tyre on, the Redwall soft tyre. George Russell is further up the track. He's just coming under the hotel section now. He's got a bit of traffic in front of him in the form of Valtteri Bottas, who gets nicely out of the way. Lawson and Sainz are building up in the final corner. It's okay, Lawson comes into the pit, so round the final corner for Russell. His opening lap, 8th fastest behind Hülkenberg. He's 3/10 off of Carlos Sainz's fastest lap.
Hamilton through up to 9th, right on the same pace as his teammate. The two Mercedes now 8th and 9th, separated by less than a tenth. Here's Lance Stroll into the final corner. 2nd set of tyres for Stroll, and he's used that to good effect with the fastest middle sector of anyone, and he jumps up to 8th. Harry, the field is immeasurably close. 18 drivers that have got lap times on the board. Perez and Colapinto with lap times deleted. Perez would have been at the sharp end, but for a tiny infraction at turn 1.
Okay, we lost that lap time for track limits at turn 1.
Is it clear, mate?
We believe it's clear.
Have a look, because I don't think so.
Handily, there is a camera angle from just behind turn 1. I tell you what, it's not even clear from
I think
that.
the front left might have just kept him in it.
I want a Hawkeye review on that for Perez. He's actually done quite a quick lap, but it's been taken away. Colapinto's was scruffy through turn 1. It was also marginal, but more clear for Colapinto that he was over. Perez is... you have to take the steward's word for it, but to the naked eye, it was imperceptible. But the rest of the field, you got Sainz on at 1 minute 23.487, so almost at 23.5. You've got Albon in the Williams, last, 18th, 6.5 tenths slower. The whole field is separated by 6.5 tenths around 16 corners and 5.5 kilometres.
It is incredibly competitive in Formula One at the moment. 18 cars have a lap on the board, as we said. Sergio Perez will have to go again. So too for Franco Colapinto. Perez is in the pits right now. The only cars out on track are Stroll and Hamilton, moseying their way back to the pits before we get set for that little lull that we normally have before we get the final few minutes of this first part of qualifying out the way. So let's check back in with Jenny Gow.
Thank you. Yeah, Piastri 4th and Norris 5th. And I'm just at the back of the McLaren hospitality unit at the moment. Just came to get some water, actually. And you wouldn't believe how many people are crammed around this large TV. And you can feel the tension. It's palpable, and they all just want this to go well. This is a time where normally everyone's having a lull, maybe a cup of tea, maybe some food. No, they're all just standing or sitting around this massive TV, both one outside and one inside the hospitality unit, and they can't take their eyes off what is unfolding. Are McLaren about to become the Constructors' Champions for the first time since 1998? A good qualifying will certainly set them up well.
The fun thing is that no one is safe after the first runs. We've got less than 5 minutes left of Q1. Stroll went again on a 2nd set of tyres. He's got a 3rd set of tyres to go on now. Aston Martin giving him everything to try and get into Q2. And on his 2nd lap, he's less than a quarter of a second down on top spot, Carlos Sainz. That is a driver that is just trying to get into Q2, showing that he's within touching distance of 1st. No one is safe, and it is carnage trying to get out of the pit lane.
That did not look like a fun junction to pull out of into the pit lane for the Sauber of Valtteri Bottas, who went, and then suddenly Perez's Red Bull was there, and then 3 cars were suddenly gearing up to come through. I think they've all just about managed to get through unscathed. I'll tell you, I was fairly impressed with actually on that first run that we saw, as we now get that second run underway. Jack Doohan, in his qualifying debut, is pretty close to his teammate Pierre Gasly right now.
Unfortunately for him at the moment, he's 16th and Gasly's 14th, but there's nothing really in it. It's just a tenth of a second, so he's right there on debut. This would be decent in terms of pace, but he'd love to find a little bit more and get through. This is anyone's game. The Mercedes are 9th and 10th. They're a team that have got ambitions for the front row, and they're in a bit of jeopardy. But as I said, everyone is in jeopardy. Colapinto is getting a time on the board into the final corner.
Here he comes now, takes a bit of curve coming into that final corner. The sparks fly from that Williams across the line for the Argentine racer. It is final qualifying for Williams, and he pops it into 12. His teammate Alex Albon crosses after him and puts the Williams into 10th.
That shouldn't be enough for either Williams with the way this track will evolve.
This is unbelievable, this.
So Hulkenberg is gridlock coming out of the pit lane.
And he'll be saying that because he'll be worried that he's not going to get enough time to get around, get his outlap in, and then get enough clear air on the track to find a decent final flyer with less than 3 minutes on the clock. They are crawling because you've got to go downhill underneath turn 1 and you pop out through the middle of turn 3. That's how the pit lane exit works.
They've got plenty of time though, but all the while they're going at a snail's pace. The tyres are cooling. You want to try and get your tyres, your brakes into the right window, and Hulkenberg, he might be time pressured with just how slow it's going, but yeah, he's not feeling chuffed. Sergio Perez's time will be reinstated. I don't think I've seen that before, where a driver's time gets deleted and then reinstated. I couldn't see that he was over the limit, and now the stewards agree.
The front left looked very, very marginal. The stewards have clearly had another look at it. Red Bull have clearly tried to contest it, and all 4 wheels over the white line. Well, I think
the front left. The front left stays on, doesn't it? It's marginal, but you should only delete it if it's clearly over. And Red Bull have argued their case. Perez is up into 3rd place with that.
Well, and that's, you can see then why they've done that, because Perez was languishing down in that elimination zone, which is everybody from 16th downwards. That currently is Valtteri Bottas in the Sauber, Pierre Gasly in the Alpine, Zhou Guanyu in the other Sauber, the second Alpine of Jack Doohan, and the RB of Liam Lawson, all out on track, going again on their outlaps for the majority of them. Bottas is trying to put in his final flyer right now for Valtteri Bottas, who is qualified the highs here of pole position back in 2017 during his Mercedes years. Could he rejoin them next season as a reserve as he bids goodbye to 3 years tenure at the Switzerland-based squad?
It's a good luck from Bottas so far. He had a nice slipstream from Max Verstappen down the second long straight. He's up on Tsunoda's time. The times will all tumble. Both Williams drivers are in the pits, and they're going to be in serious trouble here when the flurry of improvements comes.
Valtteri Bottas, who has out-qualified his teammate Zhou comprehensively this season, 20-3 on that occasion. Zhou, though, right now finds himself up in 12th and ahead of his teammate, but to the line for Valtteri Bottas and goes all the way to the top.
That's a marker. That is a Sauber in top spot as the checker flag is nearly waving in Q1. That's how close the field is. It is, quite frankly, extraordinary. Here's Hamilton.
So this will be tight.
Hamilton is 15th. He is 15th and he's coming to get a lap on the board. There is 25 seconds to go and he's getting the hurry up from Bono. His last qualifying with Mercedes, and this is trouble for Hamilton. Russell's going to get an impeding penalty as well, surely.
Liam Lawson is the man who he was impeding coming around the final corner. Lawson puts himself up into 11th, just ahead of his teammate Tsunoda in the RB. That time from Bottas with 7 seconds left on the clock was a 1:23.4. Sainz has come into the pits. Gasly pops up into 4th. At risk is Zhou. Hamilton is down in 17th.
Hamilton starts a flying lap with 4 seconds on the clock. The checker flag is now out. Hamilton is 17th. Alonso's in trouble in 19th, and they're both on flying laps, but there's loads of traffic out there.
Yeah, it's Zhou, Hamilton, Colapinto, Alonso and Doohan who all find themselves in that bottom 5. Albon is on the periphery in 15th, but both Williams cars will not go again. They find themselves in the pits. Going again, though. Hamilton's had an okay first sector, but needs to find more time.
So Zhou is out, Colapinto is out, Alonso, Doohan and Hamilton pushing, and Hamilton is on a reasonable lap here.
Alonso too, finding a bit more time in the middle sector. We'll see what the Spaniards got. There was absolutely nothing splitting this field right now. That lap from Valtteri Bottas was sensational to get him up into that P2 spot. He's being pipped by Charles Leclerc currently, but vying to get through in his final qualifying session as a Mercedes driver will be the 7-time champion, Lewis Hamilton. He's coming into the final sector now. He's halfway through it as he makes his way round through the tight and twisty hotel section. He'll have a little bit of traffic to contend with as well. He's got the Alpine of Doing ahead of him. His teammate George Russell has managed to escape up into 9th spot. Alonso's taken the flag, but it's only 15th. Will Hamilton get through? No, he won't. And in his final qualifying as a Mercedes driver, he will be eliminated from the first part of qualifying, down in 18th spot for the 7-time champion.
He's run over a bollard. He's made a mistake in the final sector somewhere, and he's got a bollard stuck underneath the floor of the car.
Yeah, I messed that up big time, guys.
And he was on a lap plenty good enough to make it through until he got to the final sector. Even though he had a compromised outlap and a bit of traffic, he'd done a decent first and second sector. And this is the limp out of his Mercedes years that Hamilton feared, and he's got.
Lewis Hamilton ends his Mercedes career with 3 Q1 eliminations in the final 6 races for all the highs that the Silver Arrows and Lewis Hamilton have experienced. Unfortunately, at least on the Saturday in Abu Dhabi, it ends on a whimper. He'll try his best to come through in the race, but for Hamilton, he is out.
That was bad, man. Jesus.
Yeah, Lewis, that was bad.
I think they're talking about the traffic there. I don't think Toto Wolff is agreeing that his driving was bad. It's certainly tough, and it's just a really sad way for it to end for Hamilton. The Mercedes qualifying years that have been record-breaking. It's Kevin Magnussen that hit the bollard. So it's Magnussen who's desperate to get out of the way. He hits the bollard, and it goes into the front of Hamilton. So it's not on Lewis this time. Hamilton was on a flying lap. Magnussen's coming through under the hotel at turn 14. He's desperate in a very quick Haas to jump out of the way. Goes off the road on the inside, clips the bollard that's on the apex. That spits it onto the racing line, and it gets stuck underneath the Mercedes. And that will cost Hamilton so much, carrying a bollard through the final corner.
That is bad luck, if ever I've seen it. No intent there from the Haas of Kevin Magnussen whatsoever, desperately trying to get his car out of the way of a fast-charging Hamilton, and takes the bollard with him, and Hamilton now gets wheeled back into the garage, and that is his final qualifying session for Mercedes, done and dusted. Out at the end of Q1, Alex Albon on the Williams. Zhou Guanyu in the Sauber is 17th. Lewis Hamilton behind him. Then Franco Colapinto, and on debut, Jack Doohan, 20th and last for Alpine, but less than a second covering the entire field.
Doohan, in the end, 5.5 tenths away from Gasly, just over half a second, and that's life in Formula One. You do a decent first run, but it's constantly an evolving process. You can never rest on your laurels thinking you've done enough, and Doohan just didn't find an improvement at the end. Had a pretty lousy final lap amidst a bit of traffic and a compromised outlap. So Doohan is at the back. Gasly keeps Alpine in the fight. He was up in 5th, and the traffic was so bad there. It was so difficult. I still think George Russell may be in trouble for blocking Liam Lawson. Lawson's made it through. Both RBs are through, but it didn't. Russell was a little bit in the way at the final corner, and his teammates certainly.
You were right, the 23.5 first run has been reinstated.
I told you, man, wait the f*** you don't check. We just raced our set.
Everyone apart from Max has gone back out on a new set. Everyone apart from Max. Max is pushing up.
Yeah. It's irrelevant what...
It is so tight. That's Perez fuming that he's had to go out on a safety set of tyres using a new set. It is so close, his track limits at the first corner. But until you see that it's over, surely you've got to keep the time on the board.
Punchy from Sergio Perez as well, but he did make it through. So too did the 2 Haas's, the 2 RBs. Fernando Alonso in the Aston Martin by a whisker made it through. If Hamilton had been able to get up into Q2, it would have been at the risk of Alonso falling down. Well, that was just Q1.
I wonder if Magnussen will get in trouble for going off the road, clipping the bollard that sent it into Hamilton's path. Technically, he got off the road so as not to impede the driver behind, but in doing so, he hit some track furniture and knocked it into the path of the drivers.
I feel like that would be a harsh penalty to
It's
give
kind of
Magnussen.
uncharted territory. I've never seen someone so desperate to get off the road that they literally drive into the runoff area but then accidentally clip a bollard that falls into the path and gets attached to the driver they're trying to get out of the way from. It's an unlucky situation.
The timing is sensational in a way, and for the bollard to be picked up midway through the apex for Hamilton. The sound you're hearing right now is a little replay of Liam Lawson. Now he comes up quick into the final corner, threads the needle. He's got...
Okay, what was that? He stepped online on entry.
Okay, copy that. We'll review.
Well, you can hear how frustrated he is. He's got Russell on the left-hand side, Aston Martin on the right-hand side. Here's Russell's.
Yeah, I was trying to get out of the way of Lawson, and I went as wide as I could without going off the track. Otherwise, I've got my lap deleted.
Russell will be getting a penalty for that. That was clear impeding, and there's going to be no argument. There was a couple of cars getting out of the way, but that's a shame for George Russell. That'll be 3 places. I'll be confident in.
Yeah, okay, well, let's head back down to Jenny.
As Lewis Hamilton just walks past me, his number 1 mechanic by his right-hand side. He's just taking his gloves. He'll go to the FIA garage and get weighed, but you could just see the shake of his head. And if it wasn't unlucky enough that he had that bollard flip up, he then walked kind of into the Red Bull brakes marker that hangs down on the pit gantry to tell the drivers where to stop. And it's just about head height, so he just banged into that as he walked past the Red Bull garage. So yeah, if he had bad luck, it's doubled now.
Yeah, it certainly is. Walking rather forlornly back to be weighed. The start of Q2, by the way, has been delayed. That is because the bollard is being put back in place.
Okay, so it actually, Hamilton dropped it off pretty much exactly halfway around the circuit from where he picked it up at turn 7. So chauffeur drove it with the underside of his car down towards the chicane at the middle of the back straight, and then it flew out from underneath the Mercedes. So they had to whip that back round another 7 corners and get it back into position.
Something flew off the back of Pierre Gasly's Alpine, rather sort of almost like a cap for a tub in all in black. Gasly has made it back to the pits, and we just saw a little slow-mo of that as he was coming into turn 6 on a quick lap. But Alpine then don't look too concerned down at their garage.
No, replaced and fixed, and Alpine still with Gasly in the fight. They basically just had Gasly in the fight for quite a lot of the recent races, apart from Ocon's massive contribution in Brazil that's scored them 18 points and got them a race lead. Gasly's been doing a great job, and they're going to need him to get into Q3 because Haas still have both cars in contention and have a lot of pace at the moment.
Yeah, Haas ended that session 7th with Magnussen, 11th with Hülkenberg. So certainly looking quick. The 2 Aston Martins made it through as well. The 2 McLarens didn't quite show their hand in that first session. We were expecting them to come out and absolutely dominate, but so far, well, they ended that down in 8th and 10th, but expecting to see more pace from the 2 Papaya cars who have had the march on the field so far this weekend. It was actually Leclerc who ended that session fastest. Valtteri Bottas with one of the laps of his life to get through into Q2. We know what a good qualifier Valtteri Bottas is, and a good farewell for him and the Sauber team to try and get them through, well, into Q2, possibly a top 10 start. He wins, well, he's already won outright the qualifying head-to-head to his teammate Zhou Guanyu, but absolutely dominates it on that front, 21-3 in the Finns' favour. As Q2, Bollard back in place, and now we're able to get things underway. 14 minutes and 40 seconds on the clock, but not a huge flurry out on track. That lap from Bottas at the end, was that something from within him, or did he get a fair bit of track evolution here? How did that come about?
It was a brilliant lap with track evolution, but everyone was improving, and he's 4/10 quicker than Zhou. Bottas was 2nd, Zhou was 17th. It's so tight, the field, especially in Q1. You have 20 cars in the picture, and it's unbelievably close. And Bottas hooked it all up. It was a sensational lap from a guy that is a fast qualifier. Joe missing a little bit of performance, 16 corners, a little bit of time ebbing away here and there. And it's the difference between being what would be the front row and being 17th on the grid. You've got to stay on top of things, though. We're into Q2, and Bottas that time is wiped off the board. He's got to do it again.
We do indeed go again, down to 15 cars out onto this track. The sun has well and truly set now, pitch black in the sky, and this circuit illuminated by the floodlights that surround it. The light glinting off of Max Verstappen's Red Bull car as he makes his way down the back straight towards turn 6. First car out there, only car out there, nobody else in a rush to head out onto the track.
And it is now officially noted, Russell impeding Lawson. That'll go to the stewards. And if there was, I would say, one team that Russell didn't need to be going to the stewards with, it would be Red Bull. If there was another, it would be RB, the junior team. They will, I think, after all the fallout from 7 days ago, revel in the fact that Russell may get a grid drop for that, and I think he will.
Just to remind you as well, already confirmed 10th-place grid drop for Charles Leclerc. So no matter where he qualifies in his Ferrari, he will be docked 10 places for using a new battery for Sunday's Grand Prix. So too, 5 places each for the 2 Williams cars further back. That's for a new gearbox for those 2 drivers, but they'll be plumb last.
No further investigation for Russell impeding Lawson.
That's surprising.
Well, I'm baffled.
Are they putting that down to the fact that, well, when you look at, you take last week and you go 1 place grid drop for Max Verstappen in the circumstances of how George Russell was building up for a lap. He wasn't even on a quick lap, technically. He was on another build lap. Lawson was absolutely on a quick lap there. Or is it just a case of that was bad luck? Where else are Russell and the Aston Martin 2 supposed to go?
Get off the racing line. He
do a Magnussen, take a Pollard out.
He impeded him, didn't he? I'm amazed that that's been cleared so quickly. Lawson's still in qualifying. It didn't actually cost him anything. But that doesn't normally matter. I am pretty surprised that Russell's got away with that. Mercedes, that is a huge reprieve from them. Of course, Hamilton out in qualifying, 18th. Russell's their only contender left in this one, and he's not going to have a grid drop.
Well, Max Verstappen is the sound you can hear now, embarking on his first fly in this session through the left-hander of turn 9. Now approaching in that middle, or towards the end of the middle sector, and looking quick, keeping it neat and tidy. The triple right-handers of 10, 11, 12. Tight and twisty underneath the hotel that is covered in purple lighting. You sling it to Bollard Corner through the left-hander, take it as far out to the wall as you can, threading the needle through the final 2 corners. No traffic for Max Verstappen to have to contend with, keeping it just within track limits in that final corner and across the line. And his opening gambit in Q2 is a 1:22.998.
Best lap of the weekend for Verstappen. To my eyes, it looked like he had just gone over track limits at the final corner. He was certainly playing with the fine margins that his teammate did in Q1, but it's a lot of pace that he's showing in the Red Bull.
Mighty words from Max Verstappen, laying down the marker in this Q2 session. But now we've got pretty much everybody out onto the circuit. Norris is starting his flying lap. Hülkenberg looking quick in the Haas in the middle sector too. Leclerc and Sainz all out there on track, trying to all find themselves the space to complete a lap unimpeded. But in that final sector, if you're just starting a lap, that's where it's tricky. You want to find the space. You're backing up. You're trying to let cars through. But right now, for George Russell at least, he's coming through the left-hander of turn 14. He's got Alonso ahead of him, but Alonso is also finishing his outlap, so should be getting on with it. Let's see what Russell can do then. Struggled so much for pace in free practice 3. Unexplained as to why he was so slow. He's 8/10 off Max Verstappen as he takes the line.
There's a load of used tyres on pretty much everyone else in the field. Verstappen saved a set of tyres at the end of Q1. That's what Perez wanted as well. They were within the same 10th, so maybe Checo could have got away with it. But it's allowed Verstappen to chuck on a new set of boots when pretty much everyone else is driving around on a set of tyres that have already done 1 lap.
Charles Leclerc in the first of the Ferraris comes across the timing line to go 4th fastest. His teammate Carlos Sainz, though, Bit quicker. Still the gap to Verstappen, though, half a second. It's Verstappen, Sainz, Hülkenberg, Russell, Leclerc. But what about the two McLarens? What have they got to show us? A 10th off at the end for Lando Norris, quickest in the first sector, quickest of anybody in the final sector, missing a little bit in that middle sector, enough to put him behind Max Verstappen at this stage. And for Charles Leclerc, who almost found himself in the wall coming out of the left-hander that sees you through turn 14.
Oh, he's on the lock stops coming through there.
Nearly crashed into turn 14.
Just a bit heart in mouth. Used to be an easy crash corner, that one. That's where Latifi crashed at the end of 2021 to cause the safety car in the late race drama, we'll call it. Leclerc there, armful of opposite lock. The corners is quicker than it used to be there, and he just about kept it out of the barriers.
Piastri on a quick lap as well. His teammate second. Let's see what the Aussie can do as McLaren continue to lead the fight right to the bitter end in this Constructors' Championship. Tsunoda pops his RB up into third. We're still waiting for laps to complete from Pierre Gasly, Valtteri Bottas, Sergio Perez and the Aussie of Oscar Piastri's fastest of anybody in the middle sector right now. Gasly comes across the line, goes 13th for Alpine, pips just by Valtteri Bottas.
New boots for Tsunoda in third, so that's why he's launched up the order in the RB. McLaren looking good on used tyres. Oscar Piastri flings it into the penultimate corner, hits the brakes, down a couple of gears, small correction at the wheel and then squirting on the throttle to the line, and he jumps up to third place as well in the other McLaren.
Yeah, nice lap from Oscar Piastri, 2/10 down from Max Verstappen, who's the pace setter at this stage. Less than 7.5 minutes to go of Q2, where once again we'll eliminate the slowest 5 drivers. Right now it's Verstappen who leads the way ahead of Norris. Piastri, Tsunoda and Sainz are the top 5. Then it's Hülkenberg continuing Haas's good form ahead of Russell. Lawson is 8th ahead of Perez. Charles Leclerc, after nearly finding the wall, 10th fastest ahead of Fernando Alonso in 11th. Then comes Lance Stroll. Kevin Magnussen is 13th ahead of Valtteri Bottas, and Pierre Gasly currently last of the runners out onto the track. But a good lap time from Yuki Tsunoda in the RB, putting on a new set of boots to try and find his way up the order. The RBs haven't really looked like they've had much to contend with. Certainly last week in Qatar and this weekend so far, they are still in that fight for 6th in the Constructors, but they are now on the back foot, and certainly their driver lineup still yet to be sorted for next season either.
Well, both drivers have got a serious point to prove, haven't they? Lawson also on new tyres there, 8th, 4 tenths away from Tsunoda. Both of them really trying to showcase their potential as a Verstappen teammate for next year.
And Tsunoda makes his way back into the pits but gets called to the weighbridge, so we'll have to go and get weighed, eating in to his qualifying running order plan. But right now, those who absolutely need to go again will be the 2 Aston Martins. Kevin Magnussen's Haas, who we expect to see a bit more pace from in his final qualifying for the Haas team. Bottas has come into the pit lane as well, put his visor up and makes his way into his pit box outside of his Sauber garage. And Gasly will be hoping for more on a new set of boots in that second run plan that we'll get in the final 5 minutes of this second part of qualifying. Bottas getting wheeled back into his garage. But it feels like then, from what we've seen so far in practice, Max Verstappen has thrown his hat certainly into the ring. Not that it was never out of it, but I think we were thinking, well, is this between Norris and Piastri only at this stage?
It's the best lap from Verstappen so far, the most competitive he's seemed, but he was on new tyres, remember. Everyone else on used at that point. McLaren are very close with him on a 1-lap used tyre, so I think they've still got more potential, but certainly Verstappen is unleashing a little bit more in the Red Bull.
It was on my way, turn 12.
Sainz not happy with Perez at turn 12. Perez, I think he'll get away with that. I don't see that being a penalty.
Yeah, he was off the racing line as you come out of turn 12. You jink to the right-hand side to then swing it back in to the left-hander of turn 13 underneath the bridge, then through the left-hander of turn 14. Max Verstappen with his helmet off there.
He's out the car.
Is he done?
He looked like he was putting a cap on. Verstappen has gone top. He's used new tyres, he's out the car, he's not going again at the end of Q2. He probably won't need to go again at the end of Q2 to get into Q3, but has he got an issue with his car, or is he having a comfort break?
certainly looks like he's done and dusted for Q2. We'll see, because every other car now is trying to jostle for position in the pit lane and head back out onto the circuit. We're entering the last 4 minutes of Q2. Verstappen only has a 10th over Lando Norris for P1 at the moment. And
it's all about getting into Q3. The body language of Verstappen as he was getting out the car, chatting to someone in the garage, I looked like a guy that was done with qualifying as he was getting out, very relaxed. That could be Verstappen done. We'll keep an eye on it, whether he's going to get back in the car or not. Everyone else has got to go out and fight for their place in Q3 still.
Well, Max Verstappen then, perhaps is there an issue there, or is he so confident that he feels like he can take his helmet off, head out for a comfort break before we get started for Q3? A reminder, this is only the second part of qualifying. We're looking to get through into the top 10. We'll lose everybody from 11th place down to 15th. Alonso needs another lap, so too Stroll, Magnussen, Bottas, Gasly. Everybody needs to go again, but they are the ones right now who are in that bottom 5. Sergio Perez and Charles Leclerc are the big names right on the edge of that dropout zone. Sergio Perez used to not making it through to Q3 in his current guise as a Red Bull driver. Charles Leclerc, mistake on his opening lap, will be hoping to find some more time in one final flyer. He's not finding time in the pit lane right now, and jostling for position.
The AlphaTauri there was over the limit.
Leclerc not happy with Yuki Tsunoda. Get on with it. They're just trying to get out of the fast lane all at the same time.
Let's head down to Jenny Gao.
Yeah, Lewis Hamilton's here, finished 18th, and Lewis, that was such bad luck. You couldn't make it up.
You couldn't make it up. You really couldn't make it up, but you know, it is what it is. I'm still okay. I mean, we gave it everything. I gave it everything. The car was in a good place, and every practice session went well. I mean, I was ahead of my teammate all weekend, and then just when we got to that when we got to qualifying, I think as a team we didn't perform in terms of the timing. I was the last car on track and ran out of time ultimately, and then I got the bollard at the end. I mean, they went under the car and I lost all downforce. So it couldn't have gone worse, really.
It's hardly ideal for your final qualifying with Mercedes. How do you feel at the moment? Each practice session, the qualifying, the race, does it all sink in afterwards, or does it start to sink in already?
I mean, every day I've just really more than ever just tried to be really present. And from the moment I wake up to the moment I get to the tracks, to sitting down with Bono and my engineers, to being in the garage, getting ready, to getting in the car and like really trying to take it in. You know, because it's the last time I'm going to be racing or driving the silver arrows, and that's powered me to all my wins and all my success through my life. So every moment is a special moment, and yeah, I would have loved to have got a podium for the guys this weekend, and it just didn't work out. So.
If you are just joining us, that was Jenny Gao speaking to the 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton in his final qualifying as a Mercedes driver, was knocked out in 18th position.
We're hearing Verstappen is not going to take further part in qualifying either. He's out the car, he's going to go through, he's still top spot in Q2, but that is huge for the outcome of this weekend.
Wow, Max Verstappen currently sitting pretty at the top, but this is only Q2. Perez, his teammate, finds time, puts himself up into 7th. Hülkenberg in the Haas went up into 2nd. Charles Leclerc is in trouble. He's down in 11th right now, needs to find time. He's coming through the middle sector right now.
Magnussen is out in the Haas. His teammate is 2nd place. Magnussen did not make it through. Leclerc's out there trying to improve. Alonso and Stroll are trying to improve, and Bottas just starts a flying lap now, and we saw how quick he was in Q1.
Stroll might just make it through into the top 10, but there'll be more cars to come. He does take the checkered flag in 10th. Sainz is only in 9th. Sainz on a decent middle sector. Alonso is carrying speed round the final corner in the 2nd Aston Martin and puts himself up into 6th. That puts Carlos Sainz at risk. Charles Leclerc is down in 13th. Is it going to be good enough for the Ferrari driver? It might well be. Round the final corner, can he get himself up into Q3? Yes, he can. Puts himself P1 in the timings.
Perez not out of the woods yet either. Checo falling down to 9th. Both of the RBs are improving. Lawson's 13th and going quickly. Tsunoda's improving as well. Sainz up to 2nd.
Decent from the two Ferraris right at the close. The checkered flag is out. Tsunoda will not make it through into Q3. He might just do, because I think Lance Stroll has had a lap time deleted.
Leclerc's had a lap time deleted. Leclerc is out in 13th position.
Plus a 10-place grid penalty to come for Charles Leclerc as well. That is a disaster for Ferrari right at the end of Q2. Lawson will not make it through in the RB. He slots in to 7th place, but Leclerc is down and out in 13th. Valtteri Bottas is the final car to cross the line round the corner. Can he get it through into Q3? In his final appearance for Sauber, Bottas puts himself in the top 10 and pops Tsunoda out. Bottas through and up into 9th. Perez just escaping through into Q3. And at the end of that, we lose the two RBs of Yuki Tsunoda and Liam Lawson and this man.
And lap was deleted.
So, breaking away. So, turn 1.
Yep, turn 1.
Charles Leclerc 14th. His teammate is top. Ferrari showing that they're in the mix, but we are going to get another look now. The sound you can hear is Charles Leclerc into turn 1. He's not quite on the apex. He's over the track limits. It looked like it from on board. It's tight. They're always tight, but I don't think there's going to be an argument here for Leclerc. He's over. He's over, and it may be over.
Yeah, it's not the same as it was for Sergio Perez in the first part of qualifying. That is Charles Leclerc out in 14th. He'll have a 10-place grid penalty as well. Kevin Magnussen out in 15th. Before we get ready for Q3, let's bring in the BBC's F1 correspondent, Andrew Benson, after Valtteri Bottas' radio.
Good enough. That's as fast as she goes.
Valtteri Bottas, Sauber's second Q3 appearance of the year on the cards. Their first since China for Valtteri Bottas as he bids farewell to the Himwell squad. Andrew, we've got to talk about Max Verstappen. It looked like he was out of the car, helmet off, didn't come out for the rest of Q2. What more do we know that's going on down at Red Bull?
Well, some pretty confusing messaging from Red Bull. So I asked them, why is Max out of his car? And the answer I got back was he's not running again. Says he was done for the session. So I said, do you mean at all? And they said he'll be back for Q3. So thanks a lot. But it's as they admit, it's an unorthodox approach. That's their word. But he is going to be running in Q3 after all that.
They're just pulling our leg, aren't they, at this stage? They're just creating a little bit of drama for us in the final qualifying of the year. They loved every minute of that. There we are, getting all excited. And ambiguity from Red Bull and Max Verstappen. So at the moment, we are fully expecting Verstappen to be back out for Q3. In the end, he finished second in that Q2 session. Just a reminder then, Tsunoda, Lawson, Stroll, Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari 14th and Kevin Magnussen 15th. They are all out.
I have to say, he looked awfully relaxed, Max, when he was getting out the car then. But he's going to be getting back in the car. And where on earth is pole position going now? McLaren has yet to show their true hand in this qualifying. No improvements late on. 5th and 6th. I still think they might be favourites just about. But it's close. Sainz has the top time. Verstappen was quick on just a first set of tyres. Hülkenberg and Gasly were 3rd and 4th. 1/10 from the pace in a Haas and an Alpine. Oh, if this is a prelude to 2025,
bring it on.
Who on earth is championship fighting? We're going to get an Alpine in the mix?
You think where they were at round 1 in Bahrain, overweight, slowest car in the field, right at the back.
The rules are working, aren't they, in Formula 1? With every race, the average pace between the front and the back, it just comes down and down. You've got so many contenders. Fernando Alonso, by the way, is in Q3. Nearly went out in Q1. He's made it through into Q3. So you've got one Ferrari, an Aston Martin, a Haas, an Alpine, 2 Red Bulls in the end. You've got Sauber into Q3. You've got 1 Mercedes. You've only got 2 Red Bulls and 2 McLarens. The rest of it is pretty much everyone else.
This is Formula One at its absolute best. The rules are absolutely working, so it's a good thing we're changing it all up in a couple of years, isn't it?
Oh, don't. We're in the sweet spot, aren't we?
This is what happens. It starts to get tight, and then we reset it all again.
In its existence, Formula One has never been more competitive, front to the back of the field. That's a fact. It's incredible to watch.
It certainly is. And now we will just wait for Q3 to begin. The top 10 shootout, the fight for the final pole position of the year. Which way will it go? We thought the 2 McLarens would be the only one fighting for this, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. Have they yet to show their card? Or have the other teams run up to Saturday night under the lights in Abu Dhabi with a little more in hand than we first thought? The sole remaining Ferrari of Carlos Sainz, could he bid farewell to the Scarlet Red team the best way he can on a Saturday and get his final pole position for the team? What about Max Verstappen? Cool, calm and collected in the Red Bull, never rule the 4-time champ out.
Well, if Ferrari are going to win the championship or even make it close, Sainz has to win the race, and he has to do that by qualifying at least on the front row now. He's the only Ferrari left in. Leclerc will start from the back of the field tomorrow, and then he's got to hope for luck and something to fall his way on strategy or safety cars or everything else. But Ferrari, with their one contender still in, they've got to get him to the front.
21 points separating McLaren, who lead the Constructors' Championship, to Ferrari in second. The numbers, the momentum is with McLaren, especially, as Julian was saying, with only one Ferrari fighting for pole position, and in that top 10 shootout, have they got one hand tied behind their back now?
Max Verstappen has got both hands on the steering wheel. Out he goes onto the circuit. New soft tyres. Lovely bluff from Red Bull or Max or everyone or both, but he is in contention for this. So we have got 10 cars still fighting for pole position in Q3, including Valtteri Bottas. Superb from him.
Well, the midfielders, could they spring a surprise? Nico Hülkenberg in the Haas is looking quick, has done all weekend. Pierre Gasly's Alpine, they are fighting ferociously as teams over 6th place in the Constructors. Never rule out the wily old fox of Fernando Alonso, and Valtteri Bottas up there as well. They may not be fighting for pole, but they could well ruin one of the top teams' days.
Well, Bottas said that's as fast as she goes to his Sauber. If he found, he's probably not going to do it because that's as fast as she goes, but 3/10 would put Bottas top. He was second in Q1. A bit of a slipstream here or something. Even the slowest cars, in theory, I don't think Bottas is going to be on pole, but he could be on the front 5.
All it takes is for another car, a top team, to have a lap time deleted, to run 4 wheels over the white line, to get balked on their final flyer. There are only 10 cars left now on the grid, so traffic management should be easier, but emphasis on the should in Formula One.
It's been an entertaining year, and this is an entertaining qualifying session to finish it off. Outlaps underway. Norris, Piastri and Bottas, the 3 cars yet to funnel out of the pits, but they will do so shortly. That's the sound of Piastri in the McLaren. Visor open, steely focus into first gear and into the fast lane of the pits. He'll head out, Norris will head out just behind him, and it's going to be 2 laps to try and settle this in qualifying.
Oscar Piastri makes his way downhill into the darkness of the tunnel that leads you out underneath turns 1 and 2 and spits you out through the middle of the right-hander of turn 3. Piastri looking for his first pole position in Formula One. Could that come under the lights in just 10 minutes' time?
Can McLaren up the ante from where they are? Have they been holding something back? They've been up the road in practice. They were on used tyres in that Q2 run. Didn't need to improve at the end. They've gone out late. Norris has left the pits now about 10 seconds behind Piastri. Bottas the only car that waits, and he'll probably just have one run somewhere in the middle. Oh, cheeky wink to camera from Valtteri Bottas on his final qualifying. It's been a brilliant session from him, and it's nice to see a veteran of the sport going out with a great effort in qualifying. He may even yet be back at some point. Here we go, Hülkenberg launching into a flying lap. He's the first to do so in the Haas.
Nico Hülkenberg, this will be his last qualifying as well for the Haas team. He moves to replace Valtteri Bottas next year at the Sauber team, who will become Audi in 2026. And Hülkenberg, who has been an absolute class act in qualifying since his comeback a couple of years ago, has beaten Magnussen 15-6 in the head-to-heads, makes his way down the over 1.1 kilometre straight, getting up to speeds of 320 kilometres an hour before he looks for the 100-metre braking board, slams on the brakes as he gets there into the left-hander of turn 6, runs a little bit deep, uphill through the right-hander, gets on the throttle, up through the gears, 5th, 6th comes, then it's a left-hand kink that's taken flat out towards the new look turn 9. This was introduced a couple of years ago. Now a sweeping fast left-hander, slightly elevated as well, and it almost roller coaster rides you through into the triple right-handers of 11, 12 and 13.
It's a nice section to round out the lap. Round the hotel. The lights, the glamour, the crowd around, watching Nico Hülkenberg flash through, past the McLaren, completing his outlap, into the penultimate corner, sweeping through flat out, down the gears, and across the line for Nico Hülkenberg. The only remaining Haas in qualifying is a 1 minute 23.492.
Best qualifying round this track of 5th place for Nico Hülkenberg way back in 2013. Then he was with the Sauber team, the one he will join next year. Russell can't pip Hülkenberg on his first flyer, neither can Perez. They slot in 2nd and 3rd respectively, but it's Max Verstappen who fooled us all in Q2. We thought he was out, done and dusted, and round the final corner he almost loses the Red Bull, runs out wide, loses the back end, struggles to control it, heads towards the wall, and after all that still cuts the timing beam, fastest by half a second.
Mamma mia, that was a moment from Verstappen. The car control to keep that out of the barriers was quite something. He's still top of the times. Once again, he's the only driver on a new set of tyres at this stage, so he's going for it. He saved the set, of course, at the end of Q2 as he was out of the car, and he has used it and everything to keep it out of the wall.
Max Verstappen is just having fun out there now, isn't he? He's 4/10 clear of Carlos Sainz, who's second, but Piastri now gets close. A 1:22.9, less than half a tenth of a second between Verstappen and Piastri after their opening gambits. But what about Lando Norris?
Norris out of the final corner, drives it straight line to the line, and he's 4 thousandths away from Verstappen, fastest in the final sector. But of course Verstappen was broadside as he was getting on the gas, so there's loads more to come from the Red Bull.
Oscar Piastri will have to go again as well. He's a victim of track limits at turn 1. He has had his lap time deleted, so he falls down to 9th fastest. The only time outside of his we haven't seen is Valtteri Bottas running out of sync with the rest of them.
Listen to this. Oh, that is just a beautiful power slide from Verstappen. I love it, just on the revs, just giving it the beans. He stays within track limits. The front right is perfectly on the white line. He's just wah, 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 getting on the gas like a powerboat. It's beautiful.
That was heading straight to the pit wall, and just in the nick of time, he straightens it up, glides across the line like nothing happened, and is currently sitting in provisional pole position.
But what it does mean, right, is that that time will get beaten. It's an amazing show of skill and car control and natural ability, but it's not the fastest way around the circuit. It's just great to see that sort of car control, though.
It certainly is. Well, Piastri will have to go again. So right now, with less than 6 minutes, it's Verstappen in provisional pole, Norris, Sainz, Hülkenberg, Gasly the top 5. Then it's Alonso in 6th ahead of Perez. Russell, Piastri going again, having a lap time deleted. Bottas running out of sequence. He'll probably only do one flyer. One man who is missing from that lineup, it's the other Ferrari of Charles Leclerc, knocked out in 14th position. Jenny speaking with him.
Wow, Charles, if you're going to do this, you're going to do it the hardest way possible, it feels like.
Yeah, but I'm sure the joy will be even bigger if we manage to pull it off from such a difficult weekend, because obviously between the engine penalty, the lap time deleted, was a tough weekend overall, but I hope we can turn this around in the best possible way.
Does it feel like another weekend, or does it feel like there's more resting on it? I know there is, but how does it feel in the garage?
I mean, I don't feel down, of course. I'm very disappointed with my performance today. I'm very disappointed with what happened on the engine yesterday. But that makes me even more motivated for tomorrow to try and do something very special. So I'll give it all.
Tough day for Charles Leclerc, 14th and out, plus a 10th place grid penalty. He will be palm last. A long Sunday for him under the lights.
Yep, he's got at least a carrot to aim for. Get as many points as you can, because there's still a championship to fight for Ferrari. And anything can happen to the McLarens. If they're out of the race, there's points that he'll need to collect to do the job. Piastri's time gets reinstated. Now, I saw this replay as we were hearing from Charles, and it looked so marginal at turn 1, and he too gets his lap time back. So he jumps up into 3rd place on the same 10th as Verstappen and Norris. Oh, they're having a tough time with these track limits, aren't they, today?
Particularly at turn 1. They've got the CCTV footage of it, and it's the front left again, I think, that just keeps him in it.
It's the bulge, it's the overlap of the tyre that is still on the white line. It's technically, as drivers pushing the absolute maximum of what's allowed. It makes it a tough call for the stewards, but it's getting confusing because they're taking it away and then realising that was incorrect, and back it goes. So Piastri in 3rd, but I think they're all going to find more time anyway. I think it's nice for Piastri to have a banker, but as he leaves the garage now, goes underneath the pit lane exit, under the tunnel, he has a new set of soft tyres on, and he has a banker lap at least that's in the top 3 for the moment. Verstappen lost 1/4 of a second at the end of the lap to Lando Norris, so there is plenty to come from everyone.
If you are just joining us, you're listening to live coverage of the final qualifying session of the year in Formula One to cap off what has been a spectacular 2024 season. It's the final 3 minutes of Q3 to fight for pole position. 10 cars out on track. Max Verstappen currently sits in provisional pole, but there is nothing between himself and the McLarens of Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. Look out for Carlos Sainz in the sole remaining Ferrari as well. McLaren and Ferrari fighting it out to take the Constructors' title come the checkered flag on tomorrow's Grand Prix. We've got outliers in the form of the midfield pack. Nico Hülkenberg, Pierre Gasly, both looking quick, both with their own scores to settle as well. This one is not done yet. 2.5 minutes left on the clock, and the field has never been closer.
There's so much at stake in this final lap of the final qualifying of the year. A Constructors' Championship fight. Can Sainz get the Ferrari to the front and at least provide some level of contention, a little bit of jeopardy for McLaren tomorrow? Who's going to even fight for the pole position as well? You've got Verstappen and the 2 McLarens there. Norris wants to still be second in the Drivers' Championship. He's got a huge chance with Leclerc starting from the back, and then the battle for 6th. Hülkenberg and Gasly still going in this qualifying in cars that have got a lot of pace in them.
Perez will be the first car to lay down that second marker. He's coming into the final corner now, the right-hander of turn 16. You run out wide, but careful not to put all 4 wheels across the white line. He puts himself up into 4th. He's still adrift of his teammate Max Verstappen at this stage.
That'll be beatable, even for the midfielders there, I think. Hülkenberg and the Haas might fancy a crack at Perez's time, as might Gasly. But for now, Sergio Perez into 4th. Oscar Piastri hits the brakes for the first corner. He's starting his flying lap, and he is very clean on track limits on the exit this time.
Oscar Piastri looking for a strong finish to a strong second season. Has had to play second fiddle to Lando Norris, his teammate, in his title challenge with Max Verstappen. But Piastri is in this one for the fight for pole. A little bit off though in sector 1, but by absolutely nothing.
He's feeling the grip through turn 5, turns it in, attacking the corner with a little bit more speed, and then he's got the rear grip as well to get on the throttle, and he hits the brakes now just beyond the 100 metres for the big stop at turn 6. Gets it hustled into the left. Over the curbs on the right, fighting the car on traction coming out.
Big final lap from Valtteri Bottas in the Sauber. This will give an indication as to how much time we can expect to find for the other runners. The Sauber has gone up into 4th spot. Make that 5th as he'll come across the line and get booted down 1 spot by Nico Hülkenberg, who goes to the top.
Hülkenberg is provisional pole. We're in the final laps. Bottas is 5th. This is a bonkers qualifying where anything can happen, and the top runners cars are still coming through finding time.
9 of the last 12 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix have been won from pole position. 11 of the last 12 have been won from the front row. Track position, so important here. We all thought the McLarens were in this one. Are they still in it? Piastri takes provisional pole with his final lap. Less than a tenth separating him and Nico Hülkenberg. We still wait to see, though, what his teammate Norris can do and the Ferrari of Sainz.
This is the Ferrari of Sainz. Couple of corners to go for Carlos Sainz, improving in the first and second sector. Norris is going quickly as well. Verstappen's first half a lap is average in his standards.
Sainz to the line then, second fastest. He will not get pole position. Perez is out as well. He pulls into the pits, down in 8th, cross the line, fastest of anyone. Lando Norris on provisional pole for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Can anyone put an end to his reign? Max Verstappen is coming through the final sector now. George Russell has to settle for 7th fastest. He won't be able to do it. Verstappen's lap isn't coming to him at this stage. He's coming round the last couple of corners now for the Dutchman, finding time across the line. He will not do it. Lando Norris takes pole position for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. It will be a McLaren front row lockout as they try and seal their first Constructors title since 1998, and this was the best start possible.
One hand on the Constructors' Championship trophy for McLaren. What a lap from Norris at a critical time, and in a session of tiny margins, he's ditched the field by over 2/10. It's a huge lap from Norris. Piastri's got the second McLaren on the front row. Sainz will start third. What a job from Hülkenberg, Harry.
That is incredible. That will be Haas's best, well, their best ever start is 4th. Kevin Magnussen in Miami. They have a pole, of course, from the sprint pole when it was reversed back in Sao Paulo. But that is another incredible qualifying from the Haas driver. And what a way to cap off his Haas career as he departs to Sauber next year. And you know what? The man he's replacing, Valtteri Bottas, well, he didn't finish 10th and last. He was 9th ahead of the second Red Bull.
Yeah, Perez down in 10th. Everyone went and beat him at the end. Gasly is 6th in the Alpine, so as much as Hülkenberg's pulled a lap for the ages, Gasly's there as well.
What a mate, that's pole.
Yeah, beautiful job. Well done, guys. 1-2, well done.
Yeah, good effort, very strong.
So unless the McLarens wipe each other out at the start or something tomorrow, they have this in the bag, you'd have thought.
Well, Lando Norris has just pulled up in that P1 spot. Alongside him his teammate and Carlos Sainz, and Jenny's got the best view in the house.
Yes, everyone's clapping and cheering. There are a lot of Norris fans here as he steps out of the car, just pulls himself out, removes the steering wheel and puts it back in. That's regulatory. What's he going to do? He's eyeing up the front of the car, yet 1 foot on, jumps off. It feels a bit flat. I don't know why. He doesn't seem to be celebrating as much as I expected him to. This isn't for the win, obviously. It's just pole position, but it was a good pole position for McLaren. And speaking to the team ahead of this qualifying session, they said, we just want to nail this bit. If we can do this bit, it could come to us. But they needed to nail this bit first, and that's exactly what they've done. They've gone out and they've nailed it. But it does feel very flat in the pen. It's a very bizarre scene. That's all I can say.
Yeah, well, I suppose the points are awarded on a Sunday, aren't they? And they've all got to get to the end of 58 laps. That will be the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. But there will, I'm sure, be smiles in the McLaren garages. A third front row lockout for the team this season. Lando Norris's 8th pole position of the year, which ties him with Max Verstappen. And sensational right at the very end for the two McLarens.
He's only won 3 races, so that's probably why he's not celebrating just yet.
Didn't want to bring that bit up, Jolyon, but...
No, he can convert. The car's quick and he's on fire, but you can't celebrate a pole position prematurely. If he wins the race tomorrow, that'll be full celebration mode for McLaren.
Nico Hülkenberg with a wry smile and a thumbs up from the German driver. An absolutely fantastic effort from the German, who has been, well, the new Mr. Saturday in recent times, and that will be his best qualifying position of the season, or his best start of the season. So what a way to cap off his time. And as you say though, Jolie, and Pierre Gasly right there as well in 6th. They will be fighting ferociously, Haas versus Alpine, for 6th in the Constructors' Championship. Max Verstappen, 5th in the end, dwindled right at the end.
Didn't hook up the final lap, improved the final sector, but we know there was more in there for Max. And it was the first lap that would have been the one for him to at least be on the front row, but had that huge power slide out of the final corner. That was his moment. The final lap just never really looked hooked up.
And just on the periphery then, Alonso just behind George Russell, who couldn't mount a charge to the Alpine or the Haas in the end. And Russell was just in the FIA garage now, looking rather gormless at the timing screens to see where he is. And, well, the best he had in the end. But let's hear from our pole sitter with James Hinchcliffe talking to Lando Norris.
And your pole sitter for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, Lando Norris, an incredible lap out there, and really a best case scenario for the constructors battle. McLaren won too. Just talk us through the run for you.
I didn't hear a thing you said, but thanks. Yeah, a perfect day for us. Probably a little bit tougher than we were hoping for. You know, we've been very quick all weekend, so we're pleased with the 1-2, but it was just a bit trickier than what we would have liked. My lap in the end was strong, and yeah, just how we wanted to end today.
Now, you go into the race, obviously, with a pretty healthy lead in the Constructors' battle. Ferrari not having as good a day as they would have hoped. But when you go into the race, is it about finishing 1-2, trying to go for that ultimate result? Or is it more about covering off Ferrari just to make sure they don't have some risky strategy that benefits from a safety car?
I mean, we got to beat Ferrari. That's the name. But we want to do it in style, and we want to win. I want to win, you know. So we know what we have to do. We're keeping our heads down. We're staying focused. But, you know, we're here to win every race possible, and tomorrow we're going to have a good chance, at least with one of our cars, and we'll be giving it everything we got, but knowing in the back of our minds what we really have to do to achieve our big goal. So very happy. The team have done an incredible job, so a big thanks to them, and yeah, always a nice qualifying to end the year.
All right, well, 8th pole on the season, 9th year career. Congratulations, best of luck tomorrow.
Thank you so much.
Lando Norris, pole position for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. His second place.
Oscar P2 on the day. So close to that first pole position, but another front row start and a dream start for the McLaren team. Just condition we saw yesterday, a bit cooler, a bit windier. How tricky was it out there?
Yeah, it was a bit trickier today compared to last night. And yeah, I think we took a while to find our feet in qualifying, but we got there in the end. And yeah, great result for the team. So happy with that. Last lap, yep, I wish I probably could have had it again, but that's okay. P2 is still a good spot, and yeah, obviously for the team, you know, first and second is the dream at the moment. So let's keep it going for tomorrow.
You had that little situation there with the track limits where the lap was taken away, then it was reinstated. What's that conversation like between you and the engineer during that time where you're not sure if you get to keep the lap or not?
I mean, I didn't say much at the time, but I thought it was, if it was out, it wasn't by much, and clearly it was in by not much. So yeah, I just kept my head down and knew I had to try and do a good final lap. You know, my last lap was quicker anyway, but just not quite quick enough. So no, it was a bit of a tense moment, but it was a little bit reassuring knowing that I at least had that lap, but you know, I knew I had to try and find a bit more anyway.
Lockout of the front row, obviously great for the team, but how important is it in the last race of the season to end with a strong result to carry that momentum into the winter?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think we'll do whatever we can to make sure we win the championship, and that's by far the biggest goal tomorrow. You know, I'm sure we'd both love to win the race, but I'm sure everyone would love to win the championship even more. So we'll make sure that happens and have some fun tomorrow.
All right, best of luck. Congratulations, P2 Oscar Piastri.
5th front row of the year for Oscar Piastri. A McLaren front row lockout.
And lining up P3 for tomorrow's race, Carlos Sainz. Came into the weekend, McLaren looked like they had a decent amount of pace. You must be really proud to be just behind them in P3.
Yeah, I think we've made some good progress to the weekend. I think McLaren have showed all weekend that they are a bit of a step ahead compared to everyone, really, and we were just there behind 2-3 tenths off. When it came to Q1 and Q2, it looked like we were getting a bit closer. I put together some really good laps in Q1 and Q2, but then in Q3, when they put everything together, they still had this little advantage over us. Anyway, still a race to do tomorrow, and we will give it everything to see if we can win that race and give ourselves the best chance.
Yeah, Constructors' Battle might be a tough ask for sure, but for you, heading into your last race with Ferrari, starting up on the second row there, how much would it mean to you to be able to sign off this chapter of your career with a win?
Well, I'm going to give it everything. Already today I was pushing in qualifying like never before, because I wanted the pole position and I wanted to give myself a good chance for tomorrow, as it might be my last battle for a win or for a podium in a while, but at the same time, enjoying as much as possible this last weekend, pushing flat out, and tomorrow nothing to lose, so we will go for it.
And just finally, some of the emotions heading into that last race, like you say, it's so important to end it on a high note. Is it tough to control the emotion and just focus on the job at hand?
If I'm very honest with you, I have not been very emotional this weekend, just because the level of focus is so high and there's so much at stake with the opportunity to win and to fight for the constructors, that I don't really get any time to really think about it and let it sink in. I'm pretty sure tomorrow before the race or after the race it will start to hit, but at the same time, I'm just going to make the most out of it, keep enjoying these last few races like I've been doing up until now, driving well, and enjoy it.
All right, well, great effort today and best of luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
Carlos Sainz.
Your top three then in qualifying for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. It's a McLaren front row lockout. Lando Norris on pole position, Piastri in second with Carlos Sainz in third. 2 McLarens versus 1 Ferrari in their bid for the Constructors' Championship. 21 points in McLaren's favour going into the Grand Prix tomorrow. Outside of the top three, Nico Hülkenberg in the Haas, a fantastic fourth ahead of Verstappen. Pierre Gasly's Alpine was 6th ahead of George Russell. Fernando Alonso 8th, Valtteri Bottas 9th, and Sergio Perez rounding out the top 10 ahead of the 2 RB drivers Tsunoda and Lawson. Stroll was 13th, Charles Leclerc, the big name to be knocked out in Q2, down in 14th. Plus, he'll have a 10-place grid penalty for a new battery. He'll be starting right at the back. Kevin Magnussen was 15th at the end of qualifying ahead of Alex Albon, Zhou Guanyu, Lewis Hamilton also knocked out what seems like an age ago.
Thank you for choosing to listen to BBC Radio on the internet. Unfortunately, the current programme on this station is unavailable. This is either due to contractual reasons or a temporary technical fault. Please try again later.